What's up, everybody? Welcome back or to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a quick little maintenance slash modification to my 2020 Honda Talon 1000 X4 right behind me. And what we're going to be basically doing is attempting to rotate the tires. And the reason I say attempting is because I'm not 100% sure if it's going to work out correctly or not, because I think that the offset on my front wheels is slightly different from the offset from my back wheels. However, the second part of today's video is going to be adding wheel spacers to the back, because the front end of a Honda Talon typically has a wider set wheelbase than the rear of the vehicle. So let's take a quick look and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so if we come over here, here is my Honda Talon. I do have aftermarket wheels. These are 15-inch wheels with 32-inch tires. Now, if we just look at my measuring tape laying here, I have it kind of lined up as best I could to the edge. And we come over here to the edge and we're reading right about 67, okay, give or take. So if we take this measuring tape to the back, which you can already tell if I stand right here, the front wheels stick out wider than the back. The back is pretty much tucked in under the back wheel wells. So if we come over here, let me line this up over here a little bit. Okay, let's just say that that's close enough. If we come over here and look, we're about 64, something like that. So to my knowledge, the rear end of a Honda Talon is typically about 3 inches shorter than the front. And I guess they do it this way for better ride handling, for cornering when you're going fast and so forth. However, I'm just not a big fan of that. I tend to like a little bit of a wider wheelbase front and back. And I'm also a little bit more of a symmetrical person, so I don't like that my front wheels stick out wider than my back wheels. So back to today's video. If you see on the back, my back tread, it's still pretty good, but I'm starting to wear out a little bit compared to the front tread. I think the front tread is a little meatier. So what I was thinking about doing is moving my front tires, reversing them to the back, and the same thing from the back, reversing them to the front. But in looking at this, I noticed that my rear offset is different from the front offset. So if we just come over here and I take my measuring tape and put it up against this inner part of the wheel to the outer lip. If I just put it there like that, you can see we're roughly about 1.5 inches to this outer edge right here. So about 1.5 inches in the back. But if we come over here to the front and put the measuring tape up, as you can see looking down, we're about 1 inch. So we're roughly about 1/2 inch different in offset from the front to the back. So even though there's about 1/2 inch offset between wheels, because I plan on putting 1.5 inch spacers on both sides in the back, I'm gaining 3 inches in the back. But if I swap the wheels and there's 1/2 inch in offset, then really I'm gaining about 2 inches in the back instead of 3. So I don't know if this is going to work yet or not, but I do want to try it because number one, I'm not 100% sure if I love riding on 32s. They are nicer. They do give you a little bit more height and ground clearance. So there are benefits to them, but they do slow you down a little bit and they're not as quick and nimble. So my goal is this: if I can rotate the tires and wear them out evenly front to back and I keep them for a little while, then I'm going to be looking at a brand new set of tires. And then at that point, I can decide if I want to go down maybe to a 31 or a 30, or if I plan on staying with the 32s. So for now, the back is wearing out a little faster compared to the front. So I just want to rotate them. And then I want to add some spacers in the back to widen the back wheelbase a little bit to get a little closer to the front. So that's the goal today. Now the spacers we're going to be using, I got them from Suer ATV. And I'll put a link in the description if you want to set for yourself. But this is what they look like here. Take that off, pull this out. Okay, so these are the spacers that we're using here. These are really nice 1.5 inch wide wheel spacers. They come with the lug nuts. These are, I believe, a 4x136, which I believe a 4x136 or 4x137 will fit on the Honda Talon. But these are a 4x136. They do have the lug nuts. I'll reuse those lug nuts when attaching the wheel to these. But these already have the lug nuts here that mount the wheel spacers to your actual hub. So the first thing I want to start doing is getting out my jack and figuring out the best way to jack this up. And then once I do that, I'll start removing the wheels and I'll see if I can rotate them. As long as they rotate pretty fine, we're going to go ahead and put the wheel spacers on, rotate the wheels, and we'll be good to go. So let me start working on this and we'll be right back in a minute. Okay, so we got the Talon jacked up. I have it on jack stands. I have a jack in the back just to kind of help stabilize it a little further. We got all 4 wheels off. So now we're gonna go ahead and start on the back wheel spacers. To install wheel spacers, it's actually pretty simple. One of the first things I would do is once you have this all kind of taken off, is just take a wire brush or something of the sort and just clean off the area that the new spacer is going to touch up against. Clean that off real good. Once you clean that off, it's as simple as sliding your wheel spacer on into the position you need to do it at. Okay, just like this. Let's say like that. Okay, you could take these lug nuts off if you want and put those on the inside to hold your spacer to your main hub assembly here. And then your old lug nuts that go with your tire, which would be these ones over here I have. Okay, I'll use those on the outside to hold my wheel onto the spacer. But this is basically all you have to do. Then I would use a little blue Loctite or red Loctite, but I prefer blue. So use a little blue Loctite like this, okay, some kind of thread locker. Put that on the threads when you put your lug nuts on your threads. That way they don't come loose from vibration over time. So go ahead and crank that all down. Then once you have everything put on, if you have a torque wrench like this, you're gonna wanna torque those lug nuts down to 80 foot-pounds of torque. If you don't have a torque wrench, just tighten it down as tight as you can. Maybe get a breaker bar and put a little bit of extra leverage on it because you want those lug nuts pretty tight. But I do recommend if you happen to have a torque wrench, go ahead and use one and tighten that down to 80 foot-pounds of torque. And then when you go ahead and put your wheel back on, same thing, add a little blue Loctite to the lug nuts and torque those down to 80 foot-pounds of torque. So let me go ahead and do a little better job cleaning this area up a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and install the wheel spacer on. And I already have the tires all removed, so this tire right here is the right front that I'm going to put on the left back. Hopefully it works. If not, I'll just go back to the way it was. Not a big deal. I just want to try to rotate these tires, even though the rims are about 1/2 of an inch off in offset from the back to the front, just to make these tires wear out a little more evenly. So let me keep working on this and I'll be right back. Okay, so I went ahead, cleaned that off, got my blue Loctite on each one of my studs here. Now I'm just gonna go ahead, stick my wheel spacer on, like so. I'm just gonna hold them in my socket here. It's a little easier to get them in there. So let me go ahead and put the last 3 lug nuts on, and then we'll come back and torque it up in a minute. Okay, so we got all the lug nuts in there, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten down. Okay. Okay, so I got the wheel spacer on. I got all 4 of the new lug nuts that came with the spacer bolted down with blue Loctite and torqued down to 80 foot-pounds of torque. So now that that is done, we are good to go on the spacer itself. So let me put these on and let's see how they line up. Okay, so I went ahead and I put one of the front tires on the back and the back tire from over here on the front. I tightened the lug nuts down by hand just to get a general idea of how it looks. Now, I understand that I need to get all 4 wheels on and take it off the jacks because when you lift the vehicle up, your wheels are gonna come in. It's just how the control arms are designed. So once I get all 4 wheels on and drop it down, the wheels will come out a little bit more, so it will look a little better. But just looking at the back of the vehicle, at how the back tire lines up with the front, it looks a lot better. And again, I could still see that 1/2 inch difference from the back to the front. But again, that's just because the offset was different by about 1/2 inch. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the other spacer on the right side, rotate all the tires, get all the lug nuts blue Loctited down and torque down to 80 foot-pounds of torque. And then we'll come back, remove the jack stands and drop it back down and take another closer look at it. So let me finish up on this and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're done. Again, as you can see, the front tire does still appear to come out about 1/2 inch wider than the rear tire. I could have went with wider wheel spacers, and maybe you got a 2-inch or something like that. But I'm just not a huge fan of wheel spacers to begin with, because wheel spacers do put extra wear and tear on your other parts of your suspension here. And the wider the spacer you go, the more stress it puts on your vehicle's parts. So I didn't want to go much wider than 1.5 inches on either side. The setup that I have right now, where I rotated the front wheels to the back and the back to the front, is temporary because I wanted to try to wear out the tire tread evenly across all 4 tires. So right now it's not bad. I did gain a little bit of width in the back. I did get my tires rotated. And at the end of the day, that's primarily what my goal was. My ultimate goal probably by next year is when I start wearing out these tires, I'm probably gonna get new wheels, but I wanna try to keep all of my offsets the same. And then that way, when I get new wheels with the same offset, with brand new tires, everything will pretty much be even at that point. So again, at the end of the day, I'm pretty happy with how things turned out today. I do like these wheel spacers. I have used wheel spacers before on my ATVs and other vehicles. So these ones here from Super ATV, the quality is there. They're really nice and robust. The fit and finish was perfect. The lug nuts fit perfect. Everything lined up perfectly. So my overall impressions of the Super ATV 1.5 inch wheel spacers, I give them a thumbs up. I give them a go. I have had wheel spacers in the past where things didn't line up perfectly. The lug nuts didn't line up perfectly. And most of those were because I bought cheaper knockoff versions on Amazon and eBay. But the Super ATV ones are definitely a high quality spacer, and I do recommend them. So I'm gonna go ahead and ride on this setup for a little while. By spring, I should be able to balance out the tread so that way, when I do try to sell this setup with these wheels and tires, I can sell them with tread that's relatively even on all 4 wheels. So ultimately, I'm really happy with how things turned out today. Again, I didn't want to go much wider because, again, I do plan on getting newer wheels and tires next year in the spring, and I didn't want to have to deal with different spacers to adjust for those offsets then. Next year, I'm going to get brand new wheels and tires. All the wheels and tires are going to be the same size and the same offset. And then these 1.5 inch Super ATV wheel spacers on the back only will keep all 4 of my wheels lined up perfectly. Okay, everybody, we are finally done. So I told you today was going to be a pretty quick and simple video. So all I did was I added 1.5 inch Super ATV wheel spacers to the back only. Because by factory, the rear end of your Talon is typically about 3 inches shorter than the width of the front end. And I guess Honda does that to help with turning radius when going fast around corners. I don't know, but either way, there's about a 3-inch difference. So what I did by adding the 1.5 inch wheel spacers to the back is I filled in that gap. So now the front and the back are now even. But I did go ahead today and rotate my wheels as well. And my wheels are not all the exact same size. The offset on the front wheels are a little different than the offset on the rear wheels by about 1/2 inch. Now all 4 tires are the same size, but the wheel offset is different by about 1/2 inch. So by putting the front wheels on the back and the back wheels on the front, I now still have about a 1 inch difference from the front to the back instead of a 3-inch difference. Now, next spring, when I get new wheels and tires, I plan on getting all 4 wheels and tires the same size so I can easily rotate them, and I won't have to worry about offset changes at that point because all 4 wheels I plan on getting in the same offset. So once I do that, all 4 wheels on my Honda Talon will be exactly even front to back because I put the 1.5 inch wheel spacers in the back that gained me 3 inches of total width in the back. But overall, the install of the wheel spacers is very simple and easy. I think the Super ATV wheel spacers are really good quality. Everything fit perfectly. The lug nuts fit perfectly. Everything lined up perfectly. So I have no complaints there. So my overall impressions of the Super ATV 1.5 inch wheel spacers, I definitely give them a thumbs up. I give them a go. But that's it for today's video. I hope this video helps some of you out. Go ahead and do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments section and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And also do me a favor, subscribe to the channel because it definitely helps me out and I greatly appreciate it. So that's it. I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. I truly appreciate you all. And as always, see you in the next video.